There is a fighter aircraft that was not built in the United States, nor was it built in Russia. Yet it became one of the most respected combat aircraft in the modern world. It was born from an unprecedented partnership, a project that united several European nations. A fighter designed not only to defend Europe, but to stand against some of the most formidable aircraft ever created. That aircraft is the Eurofighter Typhoon. For decades, the Typhoon has been compared with some of the world's most capable fighters: the F-15 Eagle, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the Rafale, and even Russia's Su-35 Flanker E. Many pilots and analysts have called it the Hunter of Europe, a fighter designed during the final years of the Cold War, a machine created to counter the growing threat from the East. But one question continues to be asked today. Why does Russia still pay close attention to the Eurofighter Typhoon? Is it truly that dangerous? Or is its reputation larger than its actual capabilities? To answer that question, we must travel back to a time when Europe faced a growing challenge. The Soviet Union was introducing a new generation of fighters: the MiG-29 Fulcrum, the Su-27 Flanker, aircraft that alarmed military planners across NATO. Suddenly, many European nations began asking a critical question. If a major conflict erupted over Europe, who would defend the continent's skies? Could Europe rely entirely on foreign aircraft? Or did it need a fighter of its own? A fighter capable of meeting Soviet aircraft on equal terms? A fighter designed specifically for the defense of Europe? The answer led to one of the most ambitious aviation projects in modern history. A multinational effort, a technological challenge, and ultimately the birth of a fighter that would become a symbol of European air power: the Eurofighter Typhoon. But creating a great aircraft is one thing, proving it is another. Would the Typhoon live up to expectations? Could it truly challenge the world's best fighters? And why does its name continue to appear in discussions involving NATO and Russia even today? In this documentary, Eagle War Machine will take you deep into the story of the Eurofighter Typhoon, from its origins during the Cold War to its role in modern military operations, to discover why this European fighter remains one of the most closely watched aircraft in the world. This is the story of the Eurofighter Typhoon, the hunter of Europe, and the fighter that continues to command attention far beyond the borders of NATO. Welcome to Eagle War Machine. To understand why the Eurofighter Typhoon was created, we must return to one of the most tense periods in modern history: the final years of the Cold War, a time when Europe stood on the front line of a potential conflict between East and West. During the late 1970s and early 1980s, NATO intelligence began receiving troubling reports. The Soviet Union was developing a new generation of fighter aircraft that appeared far more capable than many Western analysts had expected. The first was the MiG-29 Fulcrum, a highly agile fighter designed to challenge aircraft like the F-16 Fighting Falcon. The second was the Su-27 Flanker, a large, powerful air-superiority fighter built to confront the F-15 Eagle. Together, they represented a major leap forward in Soviet air power, and they immediately captured the attention of European military planners across Europe. Satellite imagery, intelligence reports, and reconnaissance data all pointed toward the same conclusion: the Soviet Union was fielding fighters that could potentially challenge NATO's dominance in the skies. For many European nations, this raised an uncomfortable question. If war ever broke out across Europe, would their existing aircraft be enough? Could they rely solely on American fighters, or should Europe develop a new aircraft of its own? A fighter designed specifically for European defense, a fighter capable of meeting the MiG-29 and Su-27 on equal terms. The challenge was enormous. Developing a modern aircraft required vast resources, advanced technology, and billions of dollars in investment. No single European nation wanted to carry the burden alone, so something unprecedented happened. Several nations decided to work together. The United Kingdom, Germany, Italy, and Spain joined forces to create a fighter unlike anything Europe had produced before. A fighter designed not merely to survive in modern air combat, but to dominate it. The requirements were ambitious. The aircraft had to be fast, it had to be highly maneuverable, it had to climb rapidly, it had to engage Soviet fighters effectively, and above all, it had to secure control of European airspace. This would not be just another fighter. It would become the centerpiece of European air power for decades to come. Years of research followed. Thousands of engineers contributed to the project. New technologies were tested, designs were revised, and gradually, the shape of a new fighter began to emerge. A fighter that would eventually become one of the most recognizable military aircraft in the world, the Eurofighter Typhoon. But designing an aircraft is only the beginning. The real question remained unanswered. Would the Typhoon actually live up to the expectations placed upon it? Could it truly compete against the fighters it had been built to counter? And would it eventually become one of NATO's most powerful weapons in the skies? In Part 3, we will examine the Typhoon's capabilities, its speed, its maneuverability, its sensors, its weapons, and the technology that transformed it into one of the most formidable fighters of its generation. Because, on paper, the Eurofighter Typhoon looked extraordinary, but was it truly as dangerous as its reputation suggested? Join us in the next chapter, Eagle War Machine. When the Eurofighter Typhoon finally entered service, many people asked the same question. Was it worth the decades of development, the enormous investment, and the expectations placed upon it by Europe? The answer began to emerge almost immediately, because the Typhoon was not designed to be an ordinary fighter. It was built from the ground up for one purpose: air superiority. A machine created to dominate the skies and destroy enemy aircraft before they could strike first. One of the first things pilots noticed about the Typhoon was its performance. Powered by two Eurojet EJ-200 engines, the aircraft possesses exceptional acceleration. It can climb rapidly, reach supersonic speeds with ease, and respond instantly to pilot inputs. In air combat, speed can mean survival, and the Typhoon has plenty of it. But speed alone does not win air battles. Agility matters, energy management matters, and the ability to outmaneuver an opponent can be the difference between victory and defeat. The Typhoon's distinctive delta wing and canard configuration provide exactly that advantage. The aircraft can change direction quickly, maintain energy during hard maneuvers, and remain highly effective in close-range engagements. Many pilots consider it one of the most agile fighters ever produced in Europe. Yet modern air combat is no longer decided only by maneuverability. Today's battles are increasingly determined by information: who sees first, who tracks first, and who fires first. To meet that challenge, the Eurofighter Typhoon was equipped with advanced sensors and radar systems, allowing pilots to build a detailed picture of the battlefield around them. The aircraft's sensor fusion capabilities provide situational awareness that previous generations of fighters could only dream about. And when combined with modern data links, Typhoon pilots can share information across an entire combat network. Then there are the weapons, and this is where the Typhoon becomes especially dangerous. Among its most formidable weapons is the Meteor air-to-air missile, a missile widely regarded as one of the most capable beyond visual range weapons in service today. With its advanced propulsion system, Meteor allows Typhoon pilots to engage targets at long distances while maintaining significant energy throughout the missile's flight. In simple terms, it gives the aircraft the ability to strike hard and strike early before many opponents can respond. Over the years, the Typhoon evolved far beyond its original Cold War mission. What began as an air superiority fighter became a true multi-role combat aircraft, capable of conducting air defense, precision strike missions, ground attack operations, and long-range patrols. This flexibility transformed it into one of NATO's most valuable assets, a fighter trusted by multiple air forces and deployed across a wide range of missions around the world. But impressive specifications on paper tell only part of the story. The ultimate test for any fighter aircraft is combat. Real missions, real threats, and real consequences. Has the Eurofighter Typhoon proven itself in actual operations? Has it demonstrated its value beyond training exercises and demonstrations? And what happened when this European fighter entered the skies over real battlefields? In Part 4, we will follow the Typhoon into combat, from NATO operations to real-world deployments, to discover whether Europe's Hunter truly earned its reputation, or whether its greatest battles were fought only on paper. Join us in the next chapter, Eagle War Machine. When the Eurofighter Typhoon entered operational service, many observers wondered whether it would ever face the kind of conflict it had been designed for. After all, the Cold War had ended, the Soviet Union had collapsed, and the massive air war over Europe that planners once feared never came to pass. Yet history has a way of creating new challenges, and before long, the Typhoon would receive an opportunity to prove itself, not in simulations, not in exercises, but in real military operations. In 2011, the conflict in Libya escalated into an international crisis. NATO launched a major air campaign, and for one of the first times in its history, the Eurofighter Typhoon was deployed into active combat operations. Fighter aircraft from several European nations took to the skies. Their missions included air patrols, escort operations, airspace control, and precision strikes against hostile targets. For the first time, the world saw the Typhoon operating under real combat conditions, and the results attracted considerable attention. What surprised many analysts was how adaptable the aircraft proved to be. The Typhoon had originally been designed primarily for air superiority, a fighter built to hunt other fighters. Yet over time, it demonstrated an ability to perform a range of missions: air defense, ground attack, close support, strategic patrols, and precision strike operations. The aircraft was evolving beyond its original role. As the years passed, Typhoons continued to participate in operations across the Middle East, supporting coalition missions, protecting Allied airspace, and maintaining NATO readiness. But perhaps the most closely watched missions occurred far from active war zones, because while bombs were not being dropped, a different kind of confrontation was unfolding: the confrontation between NATO and Russia. Over the Baltic Sea, the North Sea, and along NATO's eastern borders, Typhoon squadrons were repeatedly scrambled to intercept unidentified aircraft. In many cases, those aircraft belonged to Russia. Strategic bombers, reconnaissance aircraft, and military patrol flights operating near NATO airspace. Typhoon pilots would launch quickly, identify the approaching aircraft, and escort them while maintaining a safe distance. These encounters rarely made global headlines, yet they occurred again and again, year after year, and each encounter offered both sides an opportunity to observe the other, to study tactics, to analyze procedures, and to evaluate capabilities. Although the Typhoon never fought Russian fighters directly in large-scale combat, its presence became a constant factor in Europe's security environment. For Russia, the Typhoon represented more than just another fighter aircraft. It represented NATO's ability to rapidly respond across the continent, a highly capable aircraft operated by multiple allied nations, ready to appear almost anywhere in Europe within hours. That alone made it an aircraft worth watching. Over time, the Eurofighter Typhoon established itself as one of NATO's most important combat assets, not because of a single famous battle, not because of one dramatic victory, but because of consistent performance, reliability, and operational effectiveness across a wide range of missions. It had proven that it was far more than a Cold War project. It had become a modern combat aircraft, a true guardian of European airspace. Yet one question continues to fuel debate among military analysts. How does the Typhoon compare with its rivals? How would it perform against France's Rafale? How would it fare against Russia's Su-35? And does its reputation come from its capabilities or from the power of the alliance behind it? In Part 5, we will answer those questions. We will examine the Typhoon's legacy, its strengths, its limitations, and whether it truly deserves its place among the world's elite fighter aircraft. Before opening the door to another European aircraft, one that many experts consider even more versatile, a fighter that has earned respect.
Throughout this documentary, we have followed the story of the Eurofighter Typhoon. From its origins during the Cold War to its role as one of NATO's most important combat aircraft. And the question we asked at the very beginning was simple. Why does Russia still watch the Eurofighter Typhoon? Now, we may finally have our answer. Because the Typhoon represents far more than a fighter aircraft. It represents decades of technological development, European cooperation, and NATO's determination to maintain control of the skies. It is fast, powerful, highly maneuverable, and equipped with some of the most advanced weapons available today. For many air forces, it remains one of the most capable air superiority fighters in service. Yet the story of the Typhoon is also a reminder of how air warfare has changed. Modern combat is no longer decided solely by speed or turning performance or even the number of missiles carried beneath the wings. Information matters, networks matter, situational awareness matters. The fighter that sees first often wins first, and the Eurofighter Typhoon was built for exactly that reality. It evolved from a Cold War interceptor into a modern networked combat platform, a fighter capable of operating in some of the most demanding environments on Earth. Does that make it perfect? No aircraft is perfect. Every fighter has strengths, every fighter has limitations, but there is little doubt that the Typhoon has earned its place among the world's elite combat aircraft. It has protected European airspace, participated in military operations, and stood at the forefront of NATO air power for decades. That alone is a remarkable achievement. But perhaps the most interesting question is not about the Typhoon itself. Perhaps the real question is what came next. Because while several European nations joined together to create the Eurofighter, one nation chose a different path. France. Instead of joining the final Typhoon program, France continued developing its own fighter. A fighter designed to perform every mission: air superiority, ground attack, reconnaissance, carrier operations, and nuclear deterrence. A fighter that would eventually gain combat experience across multiple continents. a fighter that many experts consider one of the most versatile combat aircraft ever built. That fighter is the Dassault Rafale, the Hunter of France, a combat aircraft that has attracted the attention of air forces around the world. And in many international competitions, it has achieved victories that surprised even experienced analysts. Why do so many nations choose the Rafale? How does it compare to the Eurofighter Typhoon? Is it truly one of the most complete multi-role fighters ever created? And why do military planners across the world continue to study it so closely? In our next documentary, Eagle War Machine, will take you into the story of the Dassault Rafale, a fighter aircraft that has earned both admiration and respect across the globe. A machine that some believe represents the pinnacle of European fighter design, and perhaps one of the most dangerous combat aircraft ever built outside the United States and Russia. Until next time, this is Eagle War Machine. See you in the next mission.